Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Animatronic Anchor. Today we have John Wood as our guest down over here,
Hey, how's it going?
and I'm joined by George and JoJo today.
What's up, Doc?
Hello.
So, where do we begin? Do you want to talk about how Sally started with John Robb and the other? You start with two Johns, right?
Started with two other Johns. There were
That's
three
right.
Johns that started a company named Sally. Didn't make any sense, but that's what happened. And John Robb Holland was the inventor of our first moving and talking figures. They were all animated mannequins pretty much in those days. We really opened our business in January 1978. But by 1981, we learned about Chuck E. Cheese on the West Coast, and people started calling us because we were animators to do an animated musical show for their pizza restaurant. We had quite a few calling us. We had four or five different serious major corporations, and we were having to change the way we animated. We had to go to pneumatics instead of motors because of the rigors of required with an animated show that's supposed to go off every 15 minutes served by the guy that put the salad bar every day. It had to have inherent, obvious ways to maintain it, and it had to be built for a robust long-term application. So we were fortunate enough to have Showbiz Pizza open their second store here in Jacksonville. And we had seen the Chuck E. Cheese show. We felt like the Showbiz show was superior in many ways, better music, better animation. And so we looked to how could we improve on their program. The first thing was to select the type of music that we were going to use. And I had been down to Rosie O'Grady's, a real fun place down in Orlando, and had been slapping my knee and tapping my toe to some great Dixieland music, and felt like it would be mostly in the public domain, so we didn't have to worry about licensing issues, and that it was music for all ages, that it was rambunctious and fun and jazzy. So we set aside to create a hound dog band uh, that played Dixieland music. So I started coming up with the members of the band. Colonel Beauregard was probably my first one, and Colonel Beau was at the time the drummer of the group. Uh, Daniel T. Bones was our Great Dane from New York City, a real counterweight to Colonel Beauregard. Hank Winter was our country character, the guitar playing hound dog. Sir Percy Percival was an Afghan hound and was playing the clarinet. So we had piano, clarinet, drums, and guitar in the band, and we had to add bass to the music. It was coming up with those names, and I worked with a local illustrator. At one time, we had an ex-Disney architect who had joined our firm named Tom Reidenbach, went on to start Sequoia and steal one of our clients that we were working with at the time. He clandestinely went to California and got with a couple of his buddies from Disney and said, "Look, there's a real hot opportunity out there. These guys in Jacksonville don't really know what they're doing yet. Let's go after it." And what the problem was, the people who were doing that were from inside Showbiz. They were going to cheat on Showbiz and start their own chain called uh, Captain Andy's, and they
Right there.
did. Captain Andy's was first opened, I think, up in near Baltimore, and they built maybe three restaurants. That was it. I'm not too sure. But then I went to a different illustrator and got my characters illustrated by Chris Armstrong, who was a gentleman that I used a lot in those early days to do our cartoon character illustrations. And we hired Jan Sherman part time to be our talent coordinator to screen the various different voices, both for vocals singing and vocals, just dialogue, because the guy that we liked for Colonel Beauregard couldn't sing worth a hoot. And the guy that we liked for Mark Twain couldn't sing very well either, but we were able to match him up with different voices. We had created a good character, stand up and sit down character with Mark Twain, so we decided to use him and his dog Clem, kind of as a similar to the Carousel of Progress stage. Mark Twain and Clem were on stage right. If you're looking at the stage, you'd be on the left. The center was a riverboat set with Daniel and the Dixie Diggers, and then on the right was a turntable set where we had Betty B. Birthday and Wally Wish, who would deliver a birthday cake and could be operated live to actually greet the birthday character, person, and wish them a happy birthday. And got a little trap door behind the set where we could load it with a cake every time. And Wally Wish would come up with, and the door would open and the cake would be delivered. And what we did differently and what we thought better was on the reverse side of that stage was a slide show so that we could do sing-alongs with Mark Twain, and he could tell the stories too of the jumping frog of Calaveras County and other stories. And that's how we started our 3-stage show. And Daniel the Dixie Diggers went on to quite a few locations around the world. It was our first entry into the animated pizza restaurant business. We maintained the rights to them, so we sold them to some amusement parks too. We had one in Hershey Park, which I think you guys are the one who are working on them. Yep. That's what you're working on, isn't it, Kevin?
Yeah.
And we sold one to Adventureland up in Iowa, to Riverside Park, which later became Six Flags New England. And so we kept our foot in the amusement park door strongly with the animated bands. And then that led to the opportunity that you spoke of earlier to be able to bid on the Magic Lantern Theater, which we landed. Fortunately, right at the end of the heyday of animated pizza restaurants, it kept us in business. It was a full year of work, 73 characters, 5 rotating stages, 3 animated flies from the skies. And it was quite an achievement on our part. We had to come up with a whole new way of editing that show and that many characters in the days. This is almost pre-computer days, back in the early 80s and the mid 80s. But we were able to do all that and create 2 stars of the show that would walk across the stage, Electro and Proto. And we have 3 different Protos that would come out on stage on the same rail with a little track changer that we up in the back. We did more magical stuff at that show than you can imagine, and taught us a lot, led us to do bigger projects like Dark Rides, and was a real stepping stone for us as we were navigating the desert that we were encountering with people.
Now that's quite a story, and you're still going strong today, doing Dark Rides and some animatronic shows, and Sally's almost it's a little over 45 years old now, right?
Yep, we're 46 years old and really just turned 47 June 27th, and on our way to 50, I guess. I never dreamed the company would be around 50 years when it started.
So how did Sally get its name? Wasn't it a patient of John Rob's?
It wasn't. It was a friend, Sally Burnett Sharp, who he named the robot after, and made a mold of her face for the first character. A lot of it, because John Robb was a dentist, yeah. And you'd be surprised how many of the techniques and talents that he developed in dental school that were applicable to our techniques. He learned about silicone skins for prosthetics. He learned how to do molds with both plaster and with alginate, and all of that came into play as we made new faces and sculptures. When we created Daniel and Dixie Diggers, we had to change our mask making techniques into latex, and obviously to the animation techniques to pneumatics, which were really quite a big shift for us. The control system had to go from being able to do 2 characters to doing 10 characters on 3 stages with curtains and lights, all coordinated to a musical crowd. So it was a major step. We raised a little bit of money to make that step, and we were successful in getting that part of our history established. Daniel and the Dixie Diggers went on to, the first group was for Horn and Hardart, a big Burger King franchisee out of New York. And we did Mark Twain's Riverboat Playhouse. We did 3 of those for them. But we maintained the rights so that we could sell the Daniel and the Dixie Diggers to others, and did. Eventually, the largest chain that took us on was a smaller version of the show, 3-character Daniel and the Dixie Diggers with Jethro as the birthday character. And that was for Celebration Steaks. We did, I think, 15 of those. Quite a few.
Yeah. And then didn't you do a retrofit where it's their own set of characters with Major Moose and the 3 others?
Yeah, they wanted to consider changing the shows around, so we had to work with our existing frames and change the cosmetics to make the Rockin' Rascals. And we just did one of those. It didn't turn out to be that important to change the characters. They didn't see a real significant jump in attendance or any real improvement there. So they didn't retrofit the others.
Yeah, I guess Dixie Diggers was a lot better received because I think there's only one in Tennessee that had the retrofit, right?
Knoxville.
Knoxville, yeah.
And when did Bubba Bear come into play? That was after Mark Twain's?
It was. That was our second design show, Bubba Bear and the Badland Band. And the first one we put into a carnival trailer. It's still moving around the carnival circuit. It's been purchased by a couple of different people, but it's still out there operating well. Second one we sold to a client in Japan who bought Daniel and the Dixie Diggers earliest. Then he bought Bubba Bear and the Badland Band, and then he bought Billy Joe and the Bluegrass Bears. And then he wanted a German restaurant, so we developed Ursula and the Oompapas for him. It was one of my favorite shows, but we only built one of them. But it's a great show. And he's a very good customer of ours, Mr. Komori. He owns a ski resort in Hokkaido, outside of the big city up in Hokkaido, Sapporo. And in the summertime, when the snow is gone, it's an amusement park called Ruzutsu. And he's still, I hope he went to the Asia show. I see him at just about every show I go to. He's still hanging in there.
That's great, yeah. And I saw he had you and your company go and redo all the designs of the characters, so they changed all the outfits, like recently, right? And they new cast of the faces.
Well, we had to make a new cast for Percy because we didn't have his mold anymore.
Oh, really?
And so we made used a different face for Percy. But, and while there were some minor cosmetic and color changes, they were still the characters, and they still wore the pinstripe, or the candy stripe outfits.
Yeah, pretty similar, a little bit different. They tweaked I guess he probably wanted you to tweak the designs because they made their own walk-around costumes, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it looks more like his versions, the walk-around. So they changed Scratch Mo, have the different color fur. But yeah, you guys did a good job. I'm glad it's still running. You got to keep going. Yeah,
he wanted us to do the same thing with Bubba Bear, but the cost estimate we determined after doing Daniel and Dixie Diggers was a lot more than we estimated. And so the new price to do Bubba Bear scared him off. We'll see if he'll ever do that or not.
Yeah. So at the Six Flags Power Plant, was the Magic Lantern Theater the only thing Sally was involved in? Because I see in one of the other attractions there was a chicken animatronic.
Yeah, we were involved in 3 projects there. One was the scent delivery system for the Centaurium, where we had to deliver 15 different smells during the video, or the 3D film. And we came up with a program to do that with our valve system and flavored scent tabs. And we would be able to blow air over that scent tab on cue and into the face of the people watching the film. It was really an ingenious approach to delivering those scents. And then there was the House of the Future, where Phineas T. Flagg had come up with a number of really off the wall inventions, one of which was the 5 second chicken pucker and cooker. And that's what you're talking about. It was a Rube Goldberg type contraption we created, designed by Landmark. Uh, no one could build it, and yet we pulled it off. Built that and a couple of things for the House of the Future. But the entire show, the Magic Lantern Theater, was ours to build.
Was that your first time working with Landmark? And was that your only time?
Yes,
Yeah, wow.
by design.
Yeah. So that,
Well, let me explain.
Mhm.
Coming off that project, we knew that we could measure up to others. We had learned a great deal. And yet, the only way that we were going to get more jobs like that was to wait for somebody else to design it, in that case, Landmark, and then it had to go to bid. And the bid process was brutal. And so I said, look, I don't like this process. I don't like having to wait for somebody else to make the sale. I don't like having to bid against others when it comes to pricing it and potentially losing money because it's such an aggressive process. So I said, why don't we just design our own attractions that and so I set aside time and designed our first dark ride and took the market.
and what was the first dark ride that you came up with?
Ghostbusters, the dark ride. It was an interactive concept, 25,000 square feet, designed to compete with roller coasters and any other major attraction. Got a lot of attention, didn't get any purchases. Did get us motivated to continue the process in a position where people came to us if they had a dark ride idea.
Yeah. So, was your first dark ride client Alton Towers with the renovation? Because that's what I heard in one of the Hall of Fame video that they announced. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
We were hired by John Broome to go redo his ride or improve his ride around the world in 80 days. And we went in and made some significant changes, really improved the ride. Great little around the world in 80 days concept package. First designed by Keith Sparks and Robin Golding. They were the team of animators and producers of our kind of attractions in the UK. Later on, we got to know Golding and Sparks real well, even had Sparks be our agent in the UK for a little while. But Keith was quite the, he's like Farmer in that they were good designers of themed animated attractions and taught me a lot. And yet I've had to figure out how to beat it.
And what was the first one that your company actually designed but actually sold? So, and
Well, we were hired also to go into the mine of what we called later on the haunted mine originally at Canopy Lake and redesign and redevelop it and turn it into the mine of lost souls. While it wasn't a wholesale change, we probably improved 80% of the ride, kept 20% and repurposed it. Some of the decoration was fine, but we completely changed the theme and developed the storyline and all the characters for the Mine of Lost Souls. That was truly our first design build dark ride,
oh yeah, yeah.
even though it was a retrofit of an existing dark ride that they had tried to design themselves and failed miserably.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to go in there and turn into a ride that now has been popular for 30 years.
Yeah, and it's still there. And did you guys write the song and do the whole soundtrack recording and everything?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we did.
It's still pretty much the same ride. I think there's a part.
Yeah, I can't
There's
get
a,
them to hire us back to make the improvements that we want to make, or at least turn it back into what it was originally. There's some of the gags that they quit using.
I guess they just like it as is. Huh?
Well, it's a great little ride. I
Yeah.
don't mind telling you, I'm really proud of that ride. It was kind of our first.
Yeah. I remember there's a part where I think it says wood on the wall. I was wondering, is that a reference to you?
Yeah, sure. That's in the mausoleum.
And
area.
the storyline, it was like these two boys that went missing, and I think that was they took the last name of one of your employees. I think Eric Hollander, right?
Eric was the lead designer for me at that time, and so yeah, it's his face that's in the Pepper's Ghost technique in the casket. It's his body
Yeah. Huh.
that says Hollander. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think the two boys that are the ride the stories off. It was Billy and Bobby Hollander.
right,
Yeah. So I figured it must have been off of him because
it
I knew
was
he was a designer on it. Yeah.
right.
And who are some other people that worked on that ride?
Well, a lot of the same people that are here still today. We had David Jones, who's our one of our sound technicians. We had John Salisbury, who's still with us and our lead mechanical designer. Um, at the time, Harold Esposito was there. I think Brad Charles was head of electronics at the time. Um, Donna Gentry was involved. And those people, Donna and Dave, are still with me today, and so is John Salisbury.
And for Bubba Bear, did you get the same illustrator from Dixie Diggers? Was it you said some Armstrong? What was his name?
Chris Armstrong
Chris
was the
Armstrong.
character designer for those characters.
Okay. And he did both shows back then?
He was a cartoonist for our local newspaper. I liked his style, and so I would collaborate with him whenever I was doing a custom development. And he developed quite a few characters, great looking characters. As you may know, Gary Goddard and Landmark designed a very big animated show for, at the time, Astro World.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I wanted to be able to do that too. So I designed three different major attractions that we took to the marketplace and never sold. The one was Country Town USA that starred Bubba Bear and some other characters. One was the Jungle Jamboree, and one was Noah's Ark. And those all involved 20 or 30 animatronic characters and music performance. But we didn't sell it. So we moved on.
And
Wow.
who did your Merlin's Dragon show? Was that also Chris?
That was also Chris.
Wow, yeah. So he did a lot of the early shows for you. The
He did a lot of the
illustrations.
character designs
Mhm.
for all cartoon characters that we did in those days.
So could you tell me a little bit about the Merlin show and the Enchanted Castle? Was that the client or was it made for multiple places?
No, it was a sole client of that show. It was Round Table Pizza. They were a large pizza franchiser out of San Francisco. They still are. Round Table Pizza wanted to do their own animated pizza restaurant, franchise that. So they came up with the Enchanted Castle,
Ah,
and we came up with the show package that complemented the size of the show. Instead of Mark Twain, it was Merlin and his owl on stage to the left. Center stage was the Magic Music Makers, which was a dragon band, similar makeup to our Daniel and the Dixie Diggers 5-piece dragon band. And on the right was our birthday stage with Toby the birthday dragon. And here again, we could load a birthday cake in Toby stage. We could operate him live, and he could talk directly to the children who were having a birthday celebration. So Toby was one of my favorite characters, too. Great looking character and really a lot of personality. Uh, anyway, we built I think three of those shows for Enchanted for them before Toby Keith went bankrupt, and then they decided not to build anymore.
wasn't there some kind of renovation where they changed the soundtracks and did their own, and but you still had something to do with it, where they changed the owl into the little baby dragon and all that?
Yeah, there was the Wiz. He became and they did. They reduced the size. They added a karaoke to the stage show so that they could have karaoke and modified the show for their purposes.
Hmm.
And we made the new characters and did the program.
Was the Purple Wizard a separate thing originally?
Yeah, he was the greeter,
Uh,
and he was just by himself. As you walked into the restaurant, he greeted people.
okay, yeah. And then he became the main character, huh?
He became the Wiz.
Yeah. Was his name always Wally?
I guess so.
No, that was what they call it in their soundtrack that they produce themselves. And I don't know if it's still running, but it's definitely still in the restaurant in Illinois.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's
Okay. Now that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
That was
And
back in the 80s.
yeah, that's a long running show. I mean, I don't know if it's still operating. They might need some repairs, but I know people have gone in and take pictures of them. They're still there.
Oh wow, great.
And another client you had was John Philip Tubas in South Florida. Do you remember anything about that client and that show?
Yeah, their idea was to do, an animated ice cream parlor. And John Philip Tuba and Pablo Pistachio starred in that show. I love that little two-character show. Pablo was a South American parrot, and John Philip Tuba was a fat guy, a funny fat guy. And that was a good little show. It just didn't go very far.
Yeah.
They had dreams of doing 30 or 40 restaurants. I think they only did two.
Two?
Maybe only one.
Oh. I've seen.
Wow.
I think I've counted like looking through newspaper articles. I think there might have been like 5 or 6. I think there was a couple.
Yeah, may have been.
Yeah. I think only some of them had the two-character show, and then I think they
Right.
bought out another chain which had an advanced animation show, but they still kept the John Philip Tubas name or something.
Oh, okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So that's probably why there's more locations than actual sets that Sally made.
Right.
Yeah.
Didn't Tim Lawrence do some work for Sally before going to
Yeah, he
Rivertown
did.
with Tom Rybuck? Yeah.
Yeah, Tim was with me when we were designing our Daniel the Dixie Diggers. And
Right.
Tom Reidenbach recruited Tim to go with him to California and leave South. Tim and a girl named Linda Frobus, who was also a sculptor of some renown. Both of them were really quite talented. Years later, Tim moved back to Jacksonville. I hired him for some of our work on Dinopolis, dinosaur or themed thing. And it was good to see him, good to have him back. But Tim was a troubled man and ended up committing suicide a few years ago. And it's really a shame because he was quite a talent.
That's a shame. Yeah. I heard he did work in the film too. I think he worked on the Ghostbusters movie and stuff like
He
that.
did, and on Shrek too.
Mhm.
He actually modeled some of the first ogles for Shrek and gave me a copy of one. And he did the original maquettes for our Daniel and the Dixie Diggers.
He gave you a Shrek?
No.
He did. He did. He gave me one of his original sculptures,
That's
alternative
wow.
Shrek.
That's
Cool. Yeah, I'd like to see
Yeah.
that someday. You take a picture and send me it someday. That'd be cool.
I've got to find it.
Yeah.
That's got some value.
Yeah, he did a lot of. I think he was a special effects guy in a Michael Jackson Thriller music video too.
He was really into film, and when it went digital, I think it just destroyed his heart.
Mm-hmm.
He also sculpted the characters at Bullwinkle's.
Oh yeah,
I
right.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some
I did not know that. Are you sure?
I think
Yeah,
he painted
yeah.
them. Painted them. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, painted. Okay.
Mhm. I think it was.
They were built by AVG.
Yeah.
He did
Did-
work on that.
Didn't you go to one of them? The Bullwinkle's restaurant you said once?
No, we didn't do
Oh,
that.
no. No, I thought, but you said you went to one in California.
Oh, I definitely went. Yeah,
Yeah.
I went and looked at it, studied it, and tried to figure out how to do something better.
But which one did you go to? The one with the 3-stage with Nancy and Chumley, or
Yeah, I went to the
Yeah.
3-stage show.
that was a good show.
It was great. It was great, and the characters were well done.
Yeah, I mean, also they had a Looney Tunes chain of restaurants too, Gadgets.
Gadgets was built by Advanced Animation. What
Right.
happened there is when Warner Brothers bought Atari from Nolan Bushnell, Nolan kept the Chuck E. Cheese rights and continued to build Chuck E. Cheese instead of Atari games. Warner's said, "Damn it, that's a pretty good restaurant. We should have kept it." when we bought. And so they decided that they wanted to go out and license the Looney Tune characters and get Advance to produce a show for Gadget. I went to that too, and saw what they had done, and they did a great job. Warner Brothers ended up buying Advanced Animation, and yet never made it successful. And Advance was able to buy all their equipment back and their company back for a song, and gave them a great platform. One of the reasons why they're still around today.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so I was looking at John Rob Holland's portfolio online, and there's a picture.
Sorry, George, I just lost you. You froze on us, buddy.
So, which would you say was better between the licensed, or I don't know if Warner was licensed or not. I think Warner actually owned the Looney Tunes restaurant, the Gadgets. So, but what would you? I think Bullwinkle's was licensed and Warner owned their own thing with their own characters. Which would you say is better between Bullwinkle's and Gadgets?
I thought they were both superior shows.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know why they weren't long-term successful,
Yeah.
but they obviously lacked something that they needed to continue in order to be successful.
Hmm.
George, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. So what I was saying before, I don't know when it cut off. I was looking at John Rob Holland's portfolio online, and he had a picture with the Captain Andy walk around. Did you go to one of the restaurants to see the show there or something?
Yeah, we both did. I took that picture
Oh, wow.
with the Captain Andy walk around, and yeah, we went up there to see what they had done. You got to realize that we were really—that's the only person I ever sued until China left us a little dry. But
Hmm.
I was really sore about that. We were negotiating with a customer in good faith, and then I had a guy that said that he wanted to be vice president of our company that we were hiring in, that then did a turncoat on me and went out west and built a competitor,
Hmm.
uh, and a serious competitor at that. So I was really burned, and I was happy to see that they weren't successful.
Yeah, it's a shame what they did. So, did Tom Roddenbach take Andrew Whalen and Rolf Kennard as a like? Were they going to be your client, and then he went with
We
them?
were negotiating with them. They wanted us to be their exclusive animator and not work with anyone else, and
Hmm.
we weren't willing to do that. We felt like we were in a hot seat. We needed to continue to be opportunistic. We didn't like the fact that they were stealing from their existing
Yeah.
employers. I just don't like working with people who are dishonest.
Yeah.
So, and it turned out that Tom was too, that he was convinced that they were the right company to work with, and decided to go out there and build their show. He built a nice show,
Yeah. They did a
but
great job.
all of a sudden it was a hound dog riverboat show. And I wrote, I sent him a legal letter saying, wait a minute, that's our idea. That package we were working on. You can't do a riverboat show with hound dogs without, making some changes. So we did. Didn't do that.
I guess that's how it became River Town and not Riverboat.
Yeah,
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
yeah, that they added Captain Andy. He wasn't originally in the show, I don't think. They changed it a bit.
Oh yeah. By the way,
Uh,
George, when you were gone,
yeah.
I asked John about what he thinks between Gadgets and Bullwinkles. He thinks they're both kind of equal, superior shows. That's what he
Mhm.
said. I knew you wanted to ask him that, but I asked while you were gone.
Yeah, I liked them both. I thought they were well executed. The characters were, well done. Advance always built good,
Huh.
especially when Bobby Marquis was with
Yeah, he was
them.
great.
And I mean, Bobby was a genius, and was a tough competitor.
And he's still out in New Hampshire. I think he's on staff at Storyland, the theme park.
Yeah, he's had real bad bout of health. I don't know that he's still working, but
Hmm.
he went permanent with Storyland and Stony and built all their magical stuff that they got out there.
Hmm. Yeah. And they use a lot of advanced animation characters at Storyland, so you kind of tell he had something to do with it.
Yeah. Well, he built almost everything in Storyland.
Right.
Of course, being the ex head of Advanced, that all looks very similar, but it was all built by him.
Yeah.
I don't think that he used it, man.
Well, I think Storyland was a client of Advanced Animations, so and then I think he went and left Advanced Animations and full time made more stuff for them.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And
My partner Rolf Haggard was head of Palace Entertainment before he came to me and started with us. And he got real close with Bobby. They ran Storyland, and we prepared a lot of notices.
wow, yeah. So yeah. Wow. So he got to. Yeah. So Rolf was at Palace. Oh, nice.
He was the chief operating officer of Parquez in America,
Oh, yeah.
and before he came to us, and before that he ran Palace before Parquez bought Palace.
Mm-hmm. Parquez, they're like the owners of Palace.
They are.
Okay. Yeah. They're in. Are they in Mexico? Mm-hmm. I've heard of their name before, and I knew they had something to do with Storyland, and I think they owned some FECs, stuff like that.
They bought Bullwinkles and Celebration Station and a number of FECs, but they also bought Kennywood and Idlewild and Lake Compounds, Storyland and Heritage, and a few parks as well in that process.
And I think Boomers too, another FEC, which is originally down here in South Florida, but I think they own some of the locations, maybe not all of them. Right, yeah. That's a shame that Bobby's not in good health. Yeah, I mean, I talked to him a couple years ago. He's a nice guy. He's very talented.
Great
guy.
Yeah.
I think he's like 85 now, around.
Maybe a little older. Yeah. And another thing I knew about Storyland is they have some projection, the Leprechaun's Throne, which was originally at the power plant. I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know how that happened. Maybe Landmark sold them a duplicate.
Maybe. I mean, it was produced by Technifex. They may have gotten out and I mean, they did a lot of work with Goddard.
Yeah.
Actually, they were the animators of choice for Gary, and he loved Bobby, but he couldn't control Bobby. That was the problem. But so it was really disappointing when we won the award for him. But we did a good job.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, you.
So I was going to ask, what was your favorite of all the animatronic shows you did? What was your favorite one you built?
I thought that Ursula and the Oompapas was our best because it was evolutionary. We evolved. Daniel the Dixie Diggers was designed to be easily built and inexpensive, but rugged and durable. It's not our best animation, but it was a good first step into that process.
Right.
By the time we got to Ursula, we didn't have as rigid a art parameter. We were working on both Daniel and on the Dragon Show, and to some degree on Bubba Bear.
Yeah. So when Hershey Park changed it to the Dog Patch Dogs and changed their outfits, did you have anything to do with the refurbishment, or was that all them?
That was all them.
Yeah. I wasn't sure because I knew that the outfits have a tag from a local costume maker, not Sally, so I thought they probably just did it themselves.
They did.
Yeah. And I've also heard that they were made in the 90s, but then I've seen footage of them in the 80s. Was there some kind of refurbishment at any point? By you?
I don't believe we ever had to refurbish the stuff at Hershey. We sold that through a lease to buy program. Jack Seiler was head of Hershey Park. And they paid for it over 3 years. And operated, I think, for 10 or 15.
Mm-hmm. I've heard even dating back to the 70s they had a Hound Dog show, but I think that was probably the one by Creative Presentations.
I don't know. I never saw that show.
So you weren't aware that they probably. I don't know either. I'm thinking maybe they replaced the original Hound Dog Band with the Daniel and the Dixie Diggers because Creative's Hound Dog Band only had 3 hound dogs and yours had 5, so it's an obvious upgrade.
Yeah, no, we actually designed the little stage that they went on.
The gazebo.
Uh, yeah, the gazebo, and designed it for the show, built it for the show.
Hmm.
So that gazebo was constructed for designed and constructed for Daniel and Dixie
Hmm.
Diggers.
I think
We
the
had we,
yeah.
we had a portable model that we would take in a gazebo like that
Uh,
we would actually put it into a couple of state fairs,
uh,
and had one big promotion with Armour hot dogs at the Texas State Fair, and they sponsored the annual the Dixie Diggers. Uh,
oh, that's interesting. Yeah, and I think there was a portable Hank and Bo too, maybe.
we did, yeah, we had what we called the Sally Entertainer Exchange Program.
Hmm.
We were able to put two characters into existing restaurants like Papagino's up in New England, and then could swap out between Colonel Beauregard and Hank and Mark Twain, and able to kind of change that around by moving the characters around.
Hmm.
Okay. Uh,
How did Hank and Bo and the solo Beauregard and the solo Hank come to be? Was that just for smaller restaurants that didn't want a full show?
well, we first did it for Stu Leonard's.
Hmm.
Stu Leonard's had a Hank and Bo on pop, and still maybe still do,
Hmm.
on one of their counters that would perform regularly. So we knew that by taking the music from Bubba Bear and Billy Joe with Hank, and the music from Daniel Dixie Diggers with Bo, that we had a lot of repertoire that we could use, even with a single character. What we called the inner.
And do you know why they turned Huck into Hank? Was that just to distance themselves from Mark Twain, and because it wasn't really a Mark Twain show anymore?
Right. Huck L. Berry was Huck's original name, and then Hank Winter was him as a solo act.
Hmm. That makes sense. Yeah. And they switched out the banjo for the guitar because I guess Colonel Beauregard was the one on the banjo in that show. Yeah. And why did you change it for the 3 character shows? What made you decide to keep those 3 and switch Colonel Beauregard's instrument to the banjo?
It was a collaborative discussion that we had with Celebration Station at the time.
Hmm.
I mean, they could pick the 3 that basically they wanted us to use. So Scratchmo and Percival dropped out.
Yeah.
We had Bo and Hank and Daniel.
And how did Jethro P. Hogg come to be? Was that before Celebration Station, and then he was just added on to that show?
Jethro was one of our single character entertainers that I just loved that character and thought it was a great character. So did the people that had Celebration Station. They loved the character as well, and making him on
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. And I've seen there's other versions of him. I've heard of a Jasper P. Swinehard. Was that his original name?
Yeah, Farmland Foods had this logo character and a puppeteer, uh, and I saw them at the restaurant show when we were introducing Sir Thomas Lipton that we had produced for the World's Fair in New Orleans, '84.
Hmm.
And so Sir Thomas Lipton was in the Lipton tea booth. It was when they were introducing Equal as one of their new products. And I wandered around and I saw this talking pig in the Farmland Food. So I talked to the guy behind the curtain and we made friends. I told him I could make his job a lot easier by animating the character instead of using a puppeteering technique. We ended up making I think a couple of Jasper P. Swineherds for them. And I liked the character so much, I called him and I said, the guy that was my contact, I said, can I make, Jasper's left handed. Can I make his right handed cousin and call him Jethro? And he said, yeah, it's okay with us. So
Wow.
we started making Jethro.
That's a great story. I never knew how he came to be, or that Jasper was some other company's mascot that inspired Jethro. That makes a lot of sense, though.
Yeah.
And I've also seen a elf version of Jethro called Elmer.
Yeah, we made two elf versions, one for Rock City and one for the North Pole in Colorado. We just refurbished the one in Colorado last year, and so he's back operating. I don't know about the guy in Rock City, whether he's operating or not.
Don't think so. I think he's in their storage or something. That's what I've heard. But yeah, the one in Colorado, I've seen some footage of it. Looks like it's working nicely, so it makes sense that you refurbished that recently. Makes a lot of
Yeah, we
sense.
did. Last season, he looks great. And it
Yeah.
turned out just like he used to.
Hope George is coming back, I think. Let me pin him. Alright. There we go.
All right, I'm back.
Yep, welcome back.
You got to pay your light bill, George.
I was going to ask, I remember with the Dixie Diggers, Mark Twain and Betty Brooke, they never crossed over. Was that by design that they weren't in the same shows together, or was that just kind of coincidental?
I believe that there was a restriction on our control system that wouldn't, but I'm not certain. I think we had big finales with all three stages open on some of our shows. I'm not positive, but I'll
Hmm.
say it was a long time.
Did you have a proprietary control system back then? Because I've seen that. I think it's called ACS. I think you made that.
Yeah, we had to develop our own control system at the beginning, guys. Our first control system was really Bell telephone technology. And then we went to a sine wave technology called FFK and allowed us to record onto a track of tape, a sine wave that could be modified with up to 124 different bits. And it would read it, decode it, and then so we had a limitation of 124. Probably had a switch system that would allow us to switch from stage left to stage right. The animation system. I'm not positive that based on the number of bits that we roll out. So,
Now you guys don't use your own controllers, right? That system's gone, or
yeah, that system is not technically used very often anymore. It was a really good system. It allowed people to make their own programs if they were so inclined. They could program the record your own. Both the ACS 50 and the ACS 1000 and the ACS 2000 were robust control systems.
yeah.
But then we went to Simon and Calloy
Oh yeah.
and had them design what we called our mini SAM, which was a small, board that had built-in digital audio amplification and control up to I think 16 bits. And while I had intended to use that for a retail animation application where I was keeping our costs down to where I could maybe put a singing hot dog in a grocery store, but it turned out to where it was a perfect thing for us to use for our smaller dark rides. So a Ghost Blasters may have 65 or 70 mini SAM. It was our sound for the guns. It was our sound in each room for each target that got hit. It was audio for the overall program. We used Simon and Calloy to then develop a SLAM, which was designed to simulate our FSK program on our ACS 1000 so that we could replace but still use our existing software. And we used the SLAMs till they kind of became obsolete. The problem with technology is chips go, asunder after a while. And now we're using Weagle out of Germany to do our show control and some of our interactive controls.
Is that what SpongeBob used?
No, SpongeBob did use Weagle for show control, but because we're dealing with the interactivity of video gaming, we're using Alterface for our interactive system.
Okay, makes sense. Huh. And so, how was doing the whole SpongeBob project?
It was fun from beginning to end. It was really a lot of fun. Uh, and we're building our second one and talking about our third one now. So it's filling the gap that I needed it to fill.
Is the second one's gonna be? Is it Turkey?
That's right.
Okay, that's what I thought.
We're working with a large resort builder in Turkey named Rixos,
Hmm.
and they have a Mediterranean fronted uh, resort in Turkey that they're putting the SpongeBob in.
And it was great going up to your booth in November and seeing Mr. Krabs, you opening the curtain for the first time. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for being there.
How long did that ride take? Was that in 20? Just start in 2022?
No, it started in 23.
Okay.
We designed the ride for another customer initially,
Okay.
and they ran into some financial difficulties, but I knew the ride was a winner. And so let's go ahead and develop this design. Let's help somebody else. And we did.
Because in 2022, I remember I was talking to Ted King about working on the Magic Lantern Theater, and he said that he got in touch with you again for some project. He didn't tell me at the time. I think that was SpongeBob.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But we were in the negotiating stages there. We weren't
Yeah.
in a point yet to announce or to
Yeah.
work. We were talking about it.
Mhm. Yeah. I think Ted King was the actor behind Mr. Electro, if I'm correct. I think Proto was Tony Christopher, actually.
Yeah.
So that they had their own staff doing the main characters' voices on that
Yeah, I don't know who did the ventriloquist though.
one. Me,
Ventriloquist
me
do
neither. Yeah. I just heard Ted and Tony were the main two. And,
cool act.
and now I guess Ted King's working with under Paramount.
Yeah, he works for Paramount, and he's our main connection for the SpongeBob attraction.
Yeah. So what do you know when the Turkey location is expected to open, or is that too far out?
It's going to open within 6 months.
Oh, yeah, pretty soon.
I forget the exact date, but we're finished with the animatronics at this stage of the game,
Mhm.
and we're tweaking some of the video gaming, but the sets are virtually finished. But we're about ready. The ride system is still in production, but it'll be ready in time.
Yeah, that's exciting times for that one. Yeah. And I also saw you put out an announcement for this mini patent. I think Rich Hill announced it. You tell me
Yeah,
about that?
the Mini is a clever design using a trackless system into three distinct scenic areas that are using our virtual experiences of the wraparound screen to make it a real deep experience, even though it's in a smaller footprint. So basically, you start in the center with two cars, and you pull out. You have a little pre-show with a loading station. You pull out, and you're able to go over to this passing a turntable with animatronics or practical stuff, and then to a virtual experience that you play with. Then when you come back out of that, of course, when you're in a virtual experience, you feel like you've gone someplace else, and you come out of there, and that turntable is now turned, and it's a whole different scene. And that ride vehicle goes to the center block while another ride vehicle starts the same process. After it leaves uh, that area, then they swap locations and go to the other side, and they have a similar situation there with a wraparound screen and a rotating turntable. So it's limited in its capacity, but it's really advantageous to create a large experience in a small space.
Hmm. Yeah, it looks like a fun little idea. I hope someone buys it.
Oh, we did too. We're working hard to sell it.
Yeah, I'm sure your representatives are talking to a bunch of people in Asia about that right now.
We actually had somebody who said that they were interested in finding out more about our Angry Birds mini. So
Oh,
we'll see.
yeah. Wow, that sounds like an exciting thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that we know what you're up to now, I'm gonna go back to ask about Hershey. So you did some like mermaid thing. I saw a picture of that a couple days ago. What was that?
Well, we did a Little Mermaid character for them, and at the time, they just had her out there entertaining people. It wasn't anything, it wasn't a major show. It
Mm,
was kind of an accoutrement to the overall package.
yeah. And then Cup Fusion and the other thing before it. Those were both you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. Reese's Extreme Cup Challenge was our first design build for them, bringing in all of the various different non-chocolate candies into an extreme sports process. Very interactive in that we downloaded the score like three times and told which team, whether it was the chocolate lovers or the peanut butter lovers, were winning the game, and had sports announcers that were the main characters that would narrate it. And after it played, I think maybe 10 years, Reese's came back and said, we want to change it up. It's been there a while, and they hired the same guy that Louis Alfiero, who designed their Wild Mouse, their Blacklight Wild Mouse attraction, indoor Wild Mouse attraction,
Laugh track.
laugh track.
All right. Yeah.
And Lewis was hired then to design this ride from a character development design, and then we were hired to execute.
Huh. What was your favorite of the two? The Extreme Cup or the new Cup Fusion?
Cup Fusion turned out to
Hmm.
be a lot better than I thought originally. I was very concerned about it, frankly, at the beginning, and yet it's so popular and was so successful in Hershey Park. I had to apologize for my concerns going in.
Yeah. It is a fun ride. Yeah, I tried that out when I visited.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
How long was the queue?
I don't. I mean, I don't really remember because I bought the whatever they call fast pass, so I
Yeah,
didn't really have to go through it.
yeah,
Okay. Well, I've been monitoring the queues, and it's right up there with their their e-ticket rides.
Yeah.
It's always got a long line
Yeah.
and always very high in the customer satisfaction.
So Hershey keeps in touch with you about the attendance and stuff like that.
We talked to them about it, yeah,
Hmm.
and actually, you can go online and see the wait times on all the rides,
Oh,
and so
true.
it's
Yeah.
an easy thing that I check on, and usually just kind of measure it against the others that popularity because it's a relatively high capacity ride. That's
Yeah.
those two vehicles. You've got eight people dispatching at least every minute, and so it's one that consistently grinds out hundreds of people.
Yeah, and there's like it's mainly like cutouts and type of effects that you shoot at. So no like full size animatronics, but they're kind of animatronics.
Yeah, there was a fair amount of animated, but
Yeah.
not animatronic.
Yeah.
The budget was tough,
Hmm.
but there's not any more targets in any of our attractions than there are in that ride. It
Yeah.
is a highly targeted interactive experience.
And oh yeah, that's another thing that you just made me think of. Where did it begin when dark rides became interactive? Was that with Family Kingdom?
That was the first one I sold.
Hmm.
The first one I tried to sell was Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay.
The concept of combining a shooting gallery with a themed story just made sense to me.
Hmm.
And so we set out to own that concept.
Yeah.
And I think we have
Yeah, definitely. How many do you even have out of dark rides out in the whole globe? Like hundreds?
70, I think.
Okay, 70. Yeah, I'm sure one day you'll get hundreds.
I hope so. Plan to.
uh, is that how Family Kingdom got the Dixie Diggers? Was that because they already bought a ride from you?
They bought Daniel and Dixie Diggers. I didn't even know they had it. They bought it from somebody, and I
Uh,
don't know what condition it's in or anything. They haven't asked us to do any work on it, but I'm sure it's not in great condition. And and hopefully one day they'll call us and say we need you to do something
yeah, hopefully.
characters, but I don't know where they got them.
Mhm. I think it was from a Celebration station. If it wasn't from you, because it's not the 5 character one. It's
No,
the
it's a three
it's
character. Yeah, I'm sure they
yeah.
got it from one of the celebration stations
Hmm.
too. And the Great Pistolero Roundup was born with Family Kingdom. I mean, they came to me and said, John, we want to do a dark ride. And I said, great. And they said, well, we want to put it into a small Mexican restaurant that's not selling enough tacos. And I said, well, how small? And he said, well, 4,000 square feet. And I said, ooh, that's half the size of anything I've ever done. And then he told me the budget. And I said, ooh, that's half the size of any I've ever done. So I said, but if you will hire us to design the ride and will accept the idea of it being, instead of animatronics, that we're colorful flats in three-dimensional environments, like Mr. Toad's, then maybe we can make this happen.
Hmm.
I went to Europe and I talked to ride manufacturers, and I went and we were able to design the ride where the most of the ride is in the pizza restaurant or the taco restaurant, but the pre-ride is on the other side of the track. So we were able to do the pre-show and all that uh, at the loading station, and then enter to Paco's cantina where those nasty pistoleros were hiding out.
And there was another park that had it. I don't remember which one. You remember?
Yeah, it's at Frontier City out.
Okay. Yeah. And I think they renamed it Quick Draw.
They did. I like
Yeah.
that name too. Yeah.
I've seen that guy, but I think with a different, like, it's the same sculpt of the guy, but it's a different character. I think it was at Splish Splash or something.
Yeah, we made that character into a character for Splish Splash for Chip Clary.
Oh, yeah,
He
Chip.
was managing. Yeah.
Chip owned a Bullwinkle's franchise at one point, actually. Yeah.
Did he? I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Yeah. He's working out of Europa Park now.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, I was going to say, didn't you guys do a lot of retrofits of Chuck E. Cheese animatronics and make
Oh, yeah, like this one.
them? Yeah, they do like Sally soundtrack. Like
No,
rock,
here we competed to try to get Chuck E. Cheese when all of this was coming down. When uh, Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz combined, and they didn't know which show to use, and then realized that Aaron Fector had a contract that was not a real good contract for them, and they did a survey and found that Chucky was just as popular as Fats. So they decided to go with the Chucky characters. They didn't have to pay a license fee and didn't have to buy them from Creative Engineering. And so they went out to bid, and Garner Holt got the job. We worked hard to try to get that job. You know, in the animation business, there is no repeat customer very often, and this was an opportunity to get a repeat customer. It really put Garner on the map to have consistent business, and I did not, I regretted it to this day that I didn't get that job.
Yeah. Well, I think Garner had an in with them because I think Creative Presentations was the animation supplier for them for years, and I
Creative
think
Presentations never.
really
Uh,
they did a
no,
Statue of Liberty though for Showbiz at least.
yeah, that may be the case, but a company, a gentleman named Harold Goldbranson. I called the first year we were in business in
Hmm.
1978. And I joined IAPA and got their list of vendors. And under there, well, I thought that Advanced Animation and us were the only animators in the world besides. I found that there were 6 or 7 others, and so I wrote them all and called them all. And one of them was this company called Fantasy Fair, I believe, out in California.
Or Fantasy Forest. I think,
Fantasy
right?
Forest,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah, and Harold was building these crappy animation that landed in with Atari at the time and with Nolan Bushnell. He ended up owning 2 of the Chuck E. Cheeses, but he was their exclusive animator
Hmm.
for all the window animation that they did all the time.
All right. Yeah. He was a franchisee, I think too.
He
Yeah.
became a franchisee when he saw what kind of money they could make by owning some of his own
Sure.
equipment and selling crappy pizzas.
The story that I've heard Garner tell was, I guess you're right. It was Harold Goldbranson first, but I think Creative Presentations did a few projects for Chucky or Showbiz, like in maybe the '90s, and then I think Bullard was retiring, so he didn't want to do the that project, and I think he referred them to Garner. That's what I heard happened.
Bullard and March went out of business because they overexpanded after the ET project and
Oh.
all of the work that they were doing. And they called me at one time, wanted me to buy their company and I
Mhm.
or come work for them. And said no, that didn't work for me. And
Mhm.
so I Bullard actually lost the company.
Wow.
Basically went belly up
Mhm.
by just it's a tricky business, guys. I mean, this has always been a tricky business. And if you're, and I've seen animation companies that were run by artists that, you know, business wasn't their first interest. It was making something that they could brag about and be proud of. But it
Mhm.
needed to be a business first if you were going to survive. And you had to be really careful because, like I said before, there is no repeat customer, or not many.
Yeah.
That's why I would focus on building things that I could build more than once. One of the Diggers being one of the first.
Wow.
Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy, and even now with Ghost Blasters and SpongeBob. The idea is to do something more than once.
Yeah. So that's I never knew ET led to the presentation's downfall. It's something.
I don't know that it. I think they were very successful with the ET characters that they
Right.
built. We built a lot of the characters and all the exotic plants for ET as well.
Yeah.
But and I think they were very successful there. It's just that when you get into the large projects business and working for Disney and Universal, then it's not consistent.
Mhm.
Hey, you've got a lot of work and then it's over.
Yeah.
And I was always focusing on getting business that could, again, be around when the job was over.
Yeah.
But you get caught in that big project business, and all of a sudden you've got to build, 100 animatronic figures. You need a shop. You need a lot of people. It's a
Yeah.
labor-intensive business, and it's hard to get rid of talented people once you need to. It's really
Yeah.
tough, and usually it's too late when you decide you need to.
Mhm. Yeah. They started out doing kind of similar to what Dixie Diggers was. Like they had small pizza shows too, and then I saw they in the '90s they did Puro Land and ET, and that had way more animatronics they'd ever done. So I guess yeah, they kind of went too big, maybe.
Yeah. Well, they were originally in Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Not California. Yeah.
Right. They used Kenny Acton to build some of their original stuff that they were just promoting and selling.
Yeah.
But Bullard then started, but basically, Bullard decided to move the company from Chicago to LA to
Mhm.
do the Lotte World project for Battaglia. And that was huge. And it was really big. Of course, ABG did Sinbad, but all the other animatronic shows and dark rides were done by Creative Presentations
Mhm.
when they moved out to LA. And then that led to, uh, you know, the work at the power plant and ET and some of the other bigger projects. But then they got into the big project package and
Yeah.
turned out to where they couldn't keep it going.
Mhm. I think March is still doing something because I met him in November. I don't know if you saw him.
Yeah, I see him every year. Unfortunately, I just read today that his wife passed away in a few
Oh,
days.
it's a shame. Sorry to
Yeah.
hear. Hmm. Yeah, it was a
Well,
pleasure
it's,
to see him.
it's good to see Sir Percy back there.
Oh yeah, JoJo's got he made a well stand with Percy's face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Kevin,
Well,
you
any
have
other
another.
questions, guys?
Oh, but to mention, Kevin has another Sally animatronic, Monkey King from
No, you're right.
Splendid China. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
Forgot about that.
since we're wrapping up, I should probably ask you about Splendid China. Yeah, I have the Monkey King from there. I don't know how he got split up from the others, but somehow that happened and I bought him. But can you tell a little bit, maybe an abridged, shorter, if you don't have much time, story of how Splendid China came to be or what happened with that?
Well, Howard Kelly, who was my partner at the time, had made a good relationship with a gentleman that was representing Splendid China, and they had some very unique challenges with them. Not only did they want us to design and build a animated band, which we did. Peter Dalsgaard designed the Monkey King show, and it was a great little show, great characters, and the key actor of the show was the big Papa Panda, who we used in other applications. We had a client down in Argentina that had a Daniel and the Dixie Diggers, and also had a storytelling panda bear, our Papa Panda. And I always liked that character a great deal.
What park was that in Argentina? Do you know the name?
It's an FEC, and it's called the second vice president of IAPA, vice chairman, is from that company. She was the niece of the guy. He passed away. I want to say it's not Play Center, but I forget the name of it too. Yeah.
All right.
Also, you made a show similar too called Chulin and the Zoo Notes with another panda there.
Oh, in Spain?
Yeah, for the Madrid Zoo.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the Madrid Zoo, we created a menagerie of their animals, including a panda, a giraffe, and a few others, a hippo, that featured their characters. La Banda Chulin.
Yeah. So, you know how Splendid China closed? Because I think it was only open for a decade or so.
They were not popular. They were not successful. They did not attract enough people. We went on to build 3 North Pole adventures for the same company, OCP, in China, and some of their Happy Valleys, the Shenzhen, 2 or 3 of their Happy Valley developments. Then they bought a company that builds dark rides, so we quit building for them about the same time.
Was that the only show you did for Splendid China, just the show with Monkey King, or was there any other animations around the park?
They had a miniature Tibetan scene where it was important this very big rug was rolled out and rolled back up, and that mechanism gave us fits. That was the other thing that we did when we did some miniature stuff in a lake where boats went around, and we did this thing up on a hill that was a Tibetan representation. So I did not lead that project, so I'm not intimate.
Like Howard Kelly led that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And didn't Mr. Electro go to overseas or something?
He did. I understand he's in Saudi Arabia wearing a turban instead of a top hat.
You know if he's still there?
I don't know. Last time I asked, he was.
Did you send him over there in the 90s?
I think so.
Yeah. Makes sense.
You know D.W. Wilrich, the lighting and audio design group out of the UK?
Yeah.
They were the lead. We sold it through them.
Yeah.
So David Wilrich would be the one that asked if it's still operating.
Yeah. Maybe I'll
was he still able to walk around like in the show, or was he just like?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I still had him on a little length of track, and he could still move around on that track.
Wow.
We took him to IAPA one year, so the year that was in Washington, D.C. We had him out in front of the world's smallest dark ride. We had a 6-passenger single unit in our box, and we told a story about how we build dark rides, how we design and build dark rides. But out front was Mr. Electro, and Gary Goddard walked by. He said, "Well, that's Electro. How much?" And I told him, I said, "For everybody else in this place, this $1. For you, twice that." He laughed and moved on.
Was he? What did you have him saying? Was he running any original audio from the power plant, or was it all a new script?
It was all new, all new.
And it was done by you guys instead of Landmark?
Yeah.
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 For the trade show.
Right.
Yeah, that would be cool to see footage of someday. I'd like to see more of these trade show displays.
We always put on a pretty good show.
Yeah. You still do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Always try to.
How you've been exhibiting for how long? 70s? Since the 70s?
Yeah, our first show was in '78.
What do you remember from first getting into exhibiting at trade shows and IAPA?
Well, our first exhibit was right across the hall from Creative Presentations and their big month. Advanced was there. I mean, in their very first show, the same first show that we were in. So I got to meet. They were called Tim Chuck at that time,
Right. Yeah.
uh, and so I'd met Bobby and his cousin, and then Creative Engineering was there for their second show, and they uh, had two shows, both Rocket Fire Explosion and the Hillbillies,
Mm-hmm.
and were really getting a lot of attention. And that's when the people from Chuck E. Cheese, who were the same two characters, actually, they were now working for Showbiz for Brock Hotel,
Yeah.
who set up the third Captain Andy's. I mean, that's how dishonest they were. They were working for Chuck E. Cheese, looking for animation, saw creative engineering stuff, called back to Brock and said, "Look, that's Chuck E. Cheese shit is shit. We need to go with this better animation. Let's do our own thing." And so they violated the agreement they had with Nolan Bushnell and started developing their own. And they same two guys who had convinced Brock to violate his agreement were violating an agreement again to do it themselves. So I don't like working with people that are dishonest.
I don't know if they ever did another thing after Rivertown. I think that was their last time screwing anyone over, I guess.
I doubt it. Once they're a screwer, they're always a screwer.
Sure, yeah. Well, at least in the animated pizza industry, I think they were out by then.
I think you're right. I was happy that we didn't succumb to all the numbers that they were going to build and all the exclusive. It was just
Another thing I heard was Nolan Bushnell was trying to make his own animation company called like Act Unlimited or something, separate from Chuck E. Cheese. Do you remember that?
vaguely.
Yeah, I think they might have exhibited or something, but there's very little documentation on it. I thought that was interesting.
I don't think it was animation that he was promoting, but it was something different,
Yeah.
some new technology.
So Harold was an IAPA exhibitor too.
No, I never saw Harold
Okay.
Goldbranson. He was just a member of IAPA and listed as an animator.
Oh, okay.
I called again. I called everybody, and at the time it was all window store animation companies and simple animation. It wasn't high quality.
No.
It really wasn't until advanced and creative and ourselves got on the scene in '78 that we were able to kind of bring the market closer to Disney.
Wasn't there another company called like the Main Street Design Company?
Not that I recall.
I think that might have actually just been Reidenbach's company actually. So that might be what that was.
Reidenbach started a company. He started Sequoia
Oh.
Animation with a couple other Imagineers, including the guy that's still hanging in there. I forget his name.
Bob Gurr.
Bob Gurr, yeah.
Bob Gurr.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strike against Gurr, if you ask me. Because he was complicit in this whole plan.
Yeah.
But Reidenbach later just started TR8 with Tom Reidenbach Design or TRD, and he moved back to Jacksonville. I used him for a couple of projects. He was an excellent illustrator and pretty sharp when it came to character design, show design. But he had some problems.
And oh yeah, what was your favorite year exhibiting? Do you have any favorite year?
Yeah, the year that the year that we did Challenge of Tutankhamun for Six Flags, I gambled on the ability to sell it again because it was a great ride. It was our design. And so I took a mini cut ride with an automatic guided vehicle and more space and a beautiful facade and Nazir out front, and the model of the overall attraction. Spent at the time an enormous amount of money, and it was also at a time when there was economic collapse in Europe and in America, and we did not get the business, and I'd spent a lot of our cash, so it presented a real issue for me. But I was definitely proudest of that exhibit than I have been of any other. Good.
And do you know why some places like Six Flags Great Escape and one of the piers in Ocean City have a Chuck E. Cheese band that sings songs that are just like Bubba Bear? Do you know what happened with that or how that happened?
In Gillian's Pier, I think in New Jersey, they asked us to help them with an old animated band that they bought, a monkey band, and I think they used some of our music.
Okay.
Uh, I can't recall, but I was a friend of the Gillians and Roy and Pat. And so we were happy to help out. And he said, it started making money for him because I think he had a quarter operated or something. So, but I don't know about Great Adventure.
Oh, yeah. It was Great Escape, but I don't think they have it anymore.
Oh yeah, up in New York. Okay.
Yeah, it's like upstate. Yeah, and then Water Safari somewhere else in New York has some kind of show like that too, where it's
Americana Amusement Park in Ohio had one of the Aaron Fector shows.
oh yeah the Country Bear type show that he did.
Yeah,
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 I think Maury's Pier also had one. Right?
yeah. That surprised me.
Yeah.
They were the hot thing. I mean, we were playing catch up. They already had animated musical entertainment. We were just selling robots.
Mm.
So,
I think even Knoebels had one.
yeah, I saw some pictures of it recently.
Yeah. You know what?
Everything
Heroines
used.
too.
Pardon?
Heroines also had one.
All right, yeah. Then that one got replaced by Ghost Blasters ride or Boo Blasters. I forget which one it was. They tore out.
Carowinds was a Carowinds was originally a theater
Yeah.
that we converted, and it was originally a Scooby Doo ride.
Oh. I heard way back in the 70s or 80s it had a Aaron Fector Country Bear show.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So it wasn't a direct conversion into your ride. I guess there's something in between. I wonder what happened to those. Yeah. I know Knoebels still has them. I don't know what they're doing with them. I know they put a few in the museum and they took them away. Hope they come back with something eventually.
Old Dick wants to do a dark ride in the worst way, but he's being outvoted by the others so far.
Have you ever done work with them or?
Not really.
Oh.
No,
No.
we're just really good friends.
Yeah.
And he's vowed he's going to do something before he dies. Maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, they have a nice
But
little park.
they did a great job on their haunted hotel. I mean, haunted house, and they went and I suggested that they just bulldoze the Black Diamond or what it used to be. They got it off of the Hunts Pier, but they converted it into a nice dark ride, and got to hand it to them. It's a fun little indoor ride. I thought it was bad even when it was running good before.
What's that? Is that a Justice League picture on your wall? What's that over there?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that's one of the renderings of the first one that we did in Australia,
oh,
where we had Starro the Conqueror as the bad guy. So,
oh, man, that's a nice little ride. You put that in a bunch of parks now. There's like 10 of them?
seven
7.
in Six Flags.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another example of trying to develop something that you could do more than once. We did 7 of them in 3 years.
Wow, I didn't know that was that. It went out that fast. All those were made around the same time. I remember when you brought the Joker to IAPA when I was a little kid. That was my first time I went to one of the trade shows. I saw he's like sitting on a vehicle. And that same year you had The Walking Dead and Foxy. Yeah, that was
Yep.
fun. It was a fun show. Yeah, I guess
Well,
no one ever bought Foxy, right?
no, I've got him in the art department right now.
Is that still an active concept that's licensed that you could sell, or is that expired?
It expired,
Yeah.
the marketing opportunity, but we think that if somebody showed a real keen interest in it, that we might be able to rekindle it.
Yeah.
It seemed like we might be seeing, at Universal, there may be either the Halloween Horror Nights or I think Five Nights at Freddy's is going to come alive
Yeah.
at Universal.
That would be
Uh,
a good idea. They should do that.
yeah, I'm not positive, but I
Yeah.
think that's the reason why it's changed its tune on the license.
Yeah.
But I was always skeptical. I mean, I'm old school. I like telling soft stories. I didn't
Yeah.
like the idea that we were going to be shooting zombies in the head,
Yeah.
with blood. It just wasn't my style. But
Yeah.
my daughter really liked the idea, so we did. Took it in the market.
I thought Foxy was cool, but was that just like a proof of concept? Because he didn't move.
No, he didn't. This was a jump scare. It was
Yeah.
a way to kind of play to the IP, and those that recognized him. I tell you, it's still the thing that gets more inquiries on our website than anything else by far. 10 times more.
Wow.
10 times more.
Yeah, and that's as far as it went for being built. Like it was just that little prototype.
We pitched it, in those days to the big guys, and none of them knew the rights. They didn't know the show or the game at all. So when I mentioned Five Nights at Freddy's, they just looked at me with a bland stare. What are you talking about? It was a generational issue. The
Yeah.
buyers weren't of the right generation
Yeah.
to understand the opportunity.
Yeah, it was a big opportunity.
Yeah.
Especially now, there's a movie for it that would have done well in a park. I would think.
Well, our guys were excited about it, but it didn't
Yeah.
take.
Yeah, that one just kind of slipped away, I guess.
I mean, brand's kind of cooled off a little bit though since like 8 years ago. It's
Yeah.
not as popular.
They had that
Yeah.
Five Nights at Freddy's movie, but that brought it back a little bit, and now it's.
Yeah.
I think it hit its peak, so I don't know if anyone ever would buy it now. But the Horror
Yeah.
Nights house, maybe that'll happen. That would be a nice idea. It fits in with Horror Nights perfectly. It's a horror brand. That would
Fair.
work for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you done
may be a
anything
part of it.
else for? Sorry, what?
It may be a part of Epic.
Epic Universe. Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah. Did you do
Be a
anything
cool
else with
part.
Universal after ET, or is that it?
That was it. We did work on the ET out in California, and then we worked on some of the stuff for the downtown or whatever they call City Walk.
Mhm.
We did a figure for the Panasonic Pavilion,
Oh.
but I made a decision again that we needed to design and build our own. Universal and Disney both made you guarantee everything with your house and your first wife and everything else. And you could never get the credit for what you did, or rarely could you get enough credit for what you did. So we like doing what we do
Yeah.
and not just being a pawn in somebody else's game.
Yeah.
We like, the recognition of it being a Sally ride and it being a successful Sally
Yeah.
ride. And so we decided that we weren't going to burn the bridge at Universal, but that we weren't going to pursue Universal opportunities unless we needed to.
Yeah.
And since then, we've continued to be okay on our own.
No, I think it's probably a lot more fun to do a ride on your own than be subcontracted, right?
I'm telling you, when you got like, you take Funtown Splashdown.
Yeah, Haunted Hotel.
That haunted hotel just thrilled them to death, and they're so proud of it. Well, we are too, and it's something that came out of our creative minds and our creative energies and our capability. So that Challenge of Tutankhamun, all these that we've designed that are ours, that are hugely successful, like Sesame Street 2 and Justice League, then we're immensely proud and we're happy to get credit for what we've achieved.
Yeah, it's good to. It must feel really good to get credit and not have to be behind any of those big companies, like just presenting it as their own. Yeah. Did you ever do any work with Disney? Because I saw someone post something about like an Aladdin stage show with like a snake or something.
We did. That was Disney on Ice. That was Hagenbach Wallace and the that we did that for. But we also did a little character from Pinocchio,
Oh,
cat and bird.
the cat?
Yeah,
Oh yeah. Is that outdoors?
it was.
Oh yeah,
I
I
don't. I,
remember that.
it was in Disneyland.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The little bluebird. Yeah. No, I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
You're like near a window or something, maybe. I don't know. I saw a video. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, it's a cute little thing. It looks like there's no fur on it or anything. I think it's just all like.
No, it was all
Yeah.
fiberglass.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
all like it's outdoors. That's what I was thinking.
Right. Right.
No. And was that your only haunted hotel ride up in Maine? Because I read something on Drew Hunter doing something with that, renovating another haunted hotel maybe in the 90s or something.
No, they had a walkthrough haunt that everybody loved, but it was scary as shit.
Oh.
But uh, they closed it because it was too scary, or some took too many
Yeah.
people, and people, always wanted the haunted house back. So we started with a blank piece of paper and tried to pay homage to the old, but create a new story.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I got to wrap up.
Oh yeah. Well.
I've got.
Yeah.
It's been a
But,
good interview.
Yeah, it was a pleasure having you on. Really. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I've been around a long time. Got a lot of stories to tell.
That's right. We
Sure.
got some of the best of them right here.
Okay. Well, y'all have a great day.
You too.
All
Take
right.
care, John.
So long.
So long.
You've heard it here, folks. This is the animatronic anchor. Let's hear it one more time for our co-host here, Kevin and JoJo.
That's right. All right. Bye, guys.
So long. That's all, folks.